Man, that's a tougher matchup that a lot of people think. They think Topuria gonna run through Charles, and you never can't Charles Oliveira out. I think he's very tough.
But the thing about Ilya is, normally with him, the featherweight champion just became champ. He knocked out Volkanovski, knocked out Holloway back-to-back.
Yep.
You would think the next fight he'd have, he'd be some minus 1,000 favorite.
Yeah.
Ilya's got more opportunities than Charles does, but Charles can surprise us with his length, and up the middle would be really, really well suited for him, and the kicks too.
As the fight between Charles Oliveira and Ilia Topuria draws closer, MMA pros have begun sharing their predictions. Speaking on the matchup, Renato Moicano also shared his prediction. He acknowledged that while Ilia Topuria is the favorite going into the fight, Charles Oliveira should not be counted out, calling him a tough and dangerous opponent. Moicano revealed that he was initially leaning toward Topuria, but after reconsidering Oliveira's experience and skill set, he has now shifted his prediction in favor of Oliveira.
Man, that's a tougher matchup that a lot of people think. They think Topuria gonna run through Charles, and you never can't Charles Oliveira out. I think he's very tough. Man, but Topuria is good, He's 145. It's going to be a tough fight for both fighters. I don't have an opinion on that. I was leaning more to Topuria, but today I just had a podcast with Charles on my Brazilian channel, and it's just very hard to not like the guy. The guy's, and that makes harder, to pick against him. So I'm going with Charles just because he's Brazilian.
Backing Ilia Topuria to win, Kamaru Usman also weighed in with his opinion. He highlighted the conviction and fearlessness Topuria brings into every fight. Usman praised Topuria for proving his dominance by defeating top-level opponents like Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, and stated that Ilia has earned every right to be confident going into this matchup.
And he believes in that conviction so much to where, hey, put up Conor, I'll put him to sleep. Put up Charles Oliveira, I'll put him to sleep. Put up Islam, I'm put him to sleep. Like, he has that conviction. And hey, he's told us that twice now in these world title fights. And what did everyone do? Everyone went, I don't know. Volkanovski is a beast. You can't do that. He went out there and he did it. And then he goes, give me Max Holloway. And we're like, oh, I don't know. Max Holloway, the best boxer in the UFC. I don't know if you could do that. He went out there and did it. So him calling for a fight like this, I think the UFC does 100%. I think you give him what he wants.
Sharing his thoughts on the fight, Adam Catterall pointed out that it will likely be a close contest and highlighted the impressive fighting career of Charles Oliveira. He also noted that things might be stacked against Ilia Topuria, pointing out that if Jai Herbert was able to drop Topuria, then Oliveira, being naturally the bigger and more experienced fighter, could have an even greater chance of doing the same.
Because, listen, it's a close fight because Charles Oliveira is the former champion. He has got record after record after record on his ledger. He's been there, done it, and got the t-shirt. And he is the naturally bigger guy coming into this particular fight. And there are things that go against Ilia Topuria. Let's talk about the things that go against Ilia Topuria coming into this, right? He has fought at 155 before, and he did it in London, didn't he, against Jai Herbert? We saw that fight ourselves. And if Jai Herbert can drop Ilia Topuria, you better back your bottom dollar that Charles Oliveira can do it.
Calling Charles Oliveira a reckless fighter, Adam highlighted the strong belief system that drives Oliveira and elevates his performance in every fight. He noted that Charles has the ability to take risks and make the fight exciting, pushing the pace in ways few can. Adam questioned whether Ilia Topuria can truly handle and overcome such an unpredictable and fearless opponent.
Charles Oliveira, in order to be so amazing and become the fans' favourite, is a reckless fighter. That's what makes him so exciting. He is reckless. He is willing to take shots in order to dish shots out. He's willing to put himself in compromising positions in order to get the submissions. He's willing to do all of those things in order to become successful. And 9 times out of 10 recently, not earlier on in his career when he was a 145er, but now he is absolutely excelling in those types of exchanges, mainly because of a belief system that he's got in his own ability.
Yeah.
Can you be that reckless with a man that very rarely presents an opportunity. Yes.
Continuing his review and breakdown, Adam Catterall noted that technically Ilia Topuria is the more polished fighter. Speaking on the tactical aspects of the matchup, he emphasized that the outcome will heavily depend on Topuria's approach, whether he allows Charles Oliveira to be his unpredictable, dangerous self, or turns the bout into a clinical performance. Ultimately, Adam believes it all comes down to Topuria's game plan.
You've seen him dropped, as I've just said, against Jai Herbert, but look what happened. He tightened up, he didn't present another opportunity, and then he nailed Jai Herbert in the very next round and took him out. So, when I look at the technicalities of each guy, Ilia Topuria is the better guy.
Oof.
I genuinely believe that. I think technically he is the better guy.
Oof.
Will he present the opportunities for Charles to be Charles, or will it be a clinic?
Supporting Adam's stance, Nick Pete also pointed out that Charles Oliveira's recklessness can't be ignored, but at the same time noted the traits that have led to multiple losses in his career, something that weakens his case against Ilia Topuria. While Oliveira has been defeated by several opponents, Topuria remains an unbeaten and extremely tough fighter, with many having tried and failed to beat him. According to Nick, that gives Topuria the edge going into this matchup.
I know.
I think because Charles is reckless, as you say, you've made all the right points. He is reckless, but he can afford to be reckless because he's extremely good off his back. Extremely good, and that's how he sucks people in. The problem he's got with Ilia is there's no blueprints. There's many blueprints to beat Charles Oliveira. He's lost many times in his career, albeit in the latter stages now against the best of the best. But that recklessness does put him into compromising situations, and he can be stopped, he can be submitted. We've seen both. Ilia, there is no blueprint. There's no way to beat this guy. And so there's two issues you've got there. You're looking at tape of his previous fights, trying to find chinks in the armor that dozens of opponents have tried to find before unsuccessfully.
Meanwhile, Javier Mendes and Tim Welch have also shared their thoughts on the matchup. Javier acknowledged that Ilia Topuria has a higher chance of winning, but admitted he's personally rooting for Charles Oliveira to come out on top. He agreed with Tim Welch's assessment that Topuria is the kind of fighter who's extremely difficult to beat, making this a tough challenge for Oliveira.
Versus Charles Oliveira, who kind of stands in a high Muay Thai stance, marches forward with knees. If someone gave you $100 grand to bet on that fight, who would you bet?
Ilia.
By knockout?
I don't know, but I would if someone gave me $100 grand and but if you're asking me who I would want to win, I'll put Charles. I'll put my money on Charles.
Yeah, that's who you'd want.
Yeah, so that's who I'd want.
Yeah.
But if you'd give me 100 to make 100, you know, if it's that type of even, like you get 100, you can make 100. I would put Ilia.
Yeah.
He feels he cannot be beaten.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, gosh, you know as well as anybody, like the confidence that's a big one. If one fighter is very, very confident and they can back it up.
Javier further noted that Ilia Topuria is an extremely dangerous fighter. Breaking down the matchup, he explained that Charles Oliveira tends to stand upright, which could give Topuria a perfect opportunity to land a powerful shot to the chin, similar to what he did against Volkanovski. Mendes also pointed out that if Oliveira doesn't effectively use his knees or front kicks up the middle to create space, he may struggle to secure takedowns against Topuria.
I mean, that's a dangerous dude.
Yes, very, very dangerous. You know, very, very dangerous.
Why else do you think you would pick Ilia over Charles? What is it about his skill set that you like more?
It's basically because Charles is going to stand in there upright, like you're saying, and when he gets inside, he's going to use that boxing, and Charles' head's going to be up, and Ilia's got a really good way of connecting with that chin on the inside. Really, really nice, just like what he did with Volk. You know, and I think if Charles doesn't get him up the middle with knees or front kicks up the middle, he's going to have a hard time with his boxing against him, and he's going to have a hell of a time trying to take him down. So it's going to be one of those where Ilia's got more opportunities than Charles does.
Javier also pointed out that this fight presents an opportunity where Ilia Topuria has the upper hand. However, he also acknowledged that Charles Oliveira has the potential to surprise the MMA world with his exceptional skill set. Javier went on to highlight several of Oliveira's strengths, such as his dangerous submissions, creative striking, and unpredictable style, which could play a key role in securing a win if used effectively.
But Charles can surprise us with his length, and up the middle would be really, really well suited for him. And the kicks too, body, head type thing, low, high. He could do really well with that.
As Ilia Topuria prepares to compete at lightweight, Demetrius Johnson shares his thoughts on the move. He expressed confidence that Topuria will perform well in the division, citing examples of other fighters who have successfully moved up in similar situations. Johnson noted that Topuria is naturally a bigger athlete, and cutting less weight could actually benefit his performance rather than hinder it.
It's a smaller coming up. It'll be interesting because he is bigger from when I heard him on the Joe Rogan podcast. Like 191, I think he was walking around. It's massive. So for him to cut to 145, it just seems almost like, how did he do that? But now that he's going up to 155, I always like when athletes go up heavier to their natural weight, right? Like him cutting to 145, that's not natural. He was able to do it. It's almost like Conor when he was cutting to 145. He was looking at Skeletor, knocking on the desk door. Then he went to 55. I was like, okay, feels good. He beat Eddie Alvarez, and then Conor, went off and fought Floyd. Shit was history. But I think he's gonna look good at 155. I think he's gonna have to deal with, people look good when they fight people who are there in the same size.
MMA Guru went on to highlight Ilia Topuria as a true menace in the octagon. He noted that the way Topuria has secured victories in his earlier fights has made him a rising star with a strong following. Leading up to the fight, MMA Guru believes Topuria has a good chance to win convincingly and further establish his name in the sport.
Because he's such a name now in Spain, and he's a big followed guy. He got loads of views on JRE. But the thing about Ilia is, normally with him, the featherweight champion just became champ. He knocked out Volkanovski, he knocked out Holloway back-to-back. You would think the next fight he'd be some minus 1,000 favorite. But now he's got to be put into these 50-50s. He's forced it upon himself because he doesn't want to reset hunger. He needs to maintain hunger because he's now made the millions. I think he was already quite well off anyway. He's quite a smart dude.
Meanwhile, Henry Cejudo discussed Ilia Topuria's potential with Khabib Nurmagomedov, noting that Topuria is an exceptional fighter. Khabib agreed, but emphasized that if Ilia wants a shot at Islam Makhachev, he first needs to prove himself by beating top contenders like Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira. He highlighted that Topuria must earn that opportunity by securing a clear victory over Charles first.
Ilia Topuria. I like what Ilia Topuria is doing. I really do. I like the fact that he's saying, you know what, I want to go up to 155 pounds, fight the #1 contender. If he wins, and then if he wins that, then he fights Islam. I think that's good, brother. Look, listen, Ilia Topuria knocked out 2 first ballot Hall of Famers. You know what I'm saying? Volkanovski and Max Holloway. Those guys are amongst the greatest featherweights of all time. I think he deserves.
I think if he move up and he beat somebody like Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira, he's next on the line. Why not? Because there is nobody.
So you don't think right now Ilia deserves a shot at 155 pounds?
Without fighting in 155? Without? No, I don't agree.
Adding on, Robert Whittaker also shared his thoughts on the upcoming fight, expressing his support for Charles Oliveira. He said he wants Oliveira to win, noting that Charles hasn't had many recent opportunities to come out on top and has faced a string of setbacks. At the same time, Whittaker acknowledged that if Ilia Topuria wins, it would be a major statement, potentially setting up a high-profile showdown with Islam Makhachev in the future.
I think they deserve that if they're successful. Ilia fighting Charles, I'm stoked to see Charles get this opportunity. Just because he wasn't really going to get that opportunity having lost to
Arman.
Arman and Islam, to be honest. But I want that for him. I love the Charles story, right? But I do think it is the best entry fight for Ilia to fight Islam. You know what I mean?
I'm not gonna lie, man. After especially seeing that Max Holloway fight, and I know Max was drained and he just fought at lightweight, came down, he looked noticeably skinny, but
Johnny Roses asserted that he sees a clear victory for Ilia Topuria in the upcoming fight, noting that Charles Oliveira has suffered multiple losses and seems to have lost some of his edge. He added that he no longer considers Oliveira to be at the top of his game, and he expects a strong win from Topuria. Robert Whittaker also pointed out that Topuria's grappling and wrestling skills make him him confident in exchanges with Oliveira and prevent him from being intimidated by the former champion's ground game.
The stature and the body positioning between the two, I'm just seeing parallels. I really think that Ilya is going to use his low stance and he's going to knock Charles out. We've seen Charles get dropped by a few people now. I don't know. I don't think Charles should be such a heavy underdog like he is now, but I do reckon Topuria is going to win that one. Just by the way he usually does.
Charles does get dropped. Like he does get dropped in fights, and Ilya is so good at cementing those. At sensing blood, he's so good at finishing fights.
Yeah, he's so patient. He's willing to also take hits as well because he knows that his time will come.
Yeah, and his wrestling and grappling lends himself to not being afraid of Charles' ground.
Yeah. Moving on, Robert highlighted the key fighting skills that give Ilia Topuria an edge over Charles Oliveira. He broke it down by noting that Topuria possesses a strong grappling technique, while Oliveira is an excellent defender, especially on the ground. This contrast in styles, according to Whitaker, makes the fight even more intriguing than many might expect.
Of not being afraid to jump into Charles' guard, to move into that position, to start landing some ground and pound, to enter the grapple space, which is what allows Charles a lot of the times to get back to his feet.
Sharing his thoughts, Henry Cejudo pointed out that Ilia Topuria has more explosive hands and stronger overall fighting credentials. He highlighted how Topuria has made a name for himself by delivering dominant performances, including wins over 2 Hall of Famers. Cejudo added that Topuria has grown into the favorite in this matchup, thanks to his impressive rise and well-rounded skill set.
That being said, we do have a banger of a fight. We do have a fan favorite in Charles Oliveira. And obviously right now, to me, maybe the number 2 and creeping up to potentially be pound for pound, the Matador, Ilia Topuria. When I look at this fight, I think of this fight stylistically. I think, okay, the explosive power and the power in the hands, and it's crazy to say that, you have to go with more of Ilia Topuria, right? Ilia Topuria goes high, low. He can go to the body. He can go up top. He's been knocking people out cold. That means Max Holloway, 2 future Hall of Famers he knocked out. None of those guys went championship rounds. We saw him one time at 155 pounds.
Henry Cejudo also highlighted that despite being dropped by Jai Herbert, Ilia Topuria maintained his momentum by delivering a tremendous comeback performance and has since knocked out several opponents. On the other hand, he acknowledged that Charles Oliveira is also a dangerous threat to Topuria, pointing out that Oliveira has knockout power of his own. However, Henry expressed concern over Oliveira's tendency to fight loosely, noting that this is something Charles must adjust if he wants to stand a real chance against a precise and explosive fighter like Topuria.
Against Jai Herbert, but he got hurt, he got dropped, but the Matador in him, he came back, he ended up knocking him out. Charles Oliveira is the bigger fighter. Charles Oliveira has fought the who's at 155 pounds. I mean, everything absolutely changes, man, with Charles Oliveira taking down Michael Chandler, with Charles Oliveira taking down Justin Gaethje with those beautiful double legs. But I will say this, when I think of this fight, I always think of the distance that Charles Oliveira brings, and particularly he likes to be in close. And the fact that he likes to be in close with an inside fighter, it doesn't make sense. And that was one thing, the person that needs to make adjustments in this fight.
Raising concerns for Charles Oliveira, Henry questioned how Charles will be able to handle a fighter like Ilia Topuria, who has been consistently knocking out opponents. Unlike Topuria, Henry pointed out, Oliveira has been knocked out by several fighters in the past. He emphasized that serious adjustments are needed in Oliveira's fighting approach and athleticism. Otherwise, he warned, Charles could be in for a tough night, with Topuria potentially securing a dominant victory and moving closer to becoming a 2-division world champion.
Typically, you would say the lighter fighter, the smaller fighter going up, but not really. Charles Oliveira has been dropped by just about everybody that he's fought, from Chandler to Gaethje to Islam. I mean, what happens when you go up against a dude that's knocking people out, not TKOing people, knocking people out cold like Ilia Topuria? So when I'm looking at this fight, I'm saying Charles Oliveira is the guy that has to make those adjustments. If not, it's going to be the double champ. It's going to be Ilia Topuria securing himself as a 2-division world champion. That's right. I'm saying 2 divisions.
The predictions are in. Topuria's power or Oliveira's unpredictability. MMA legends and top analysts are split, but one thing's certain. This fight is going to be fireworks. Will Ilya continue his unbeaten rise? Or will Charles remind the world why he's a former champ? Drop your pick in the comments. Hit that like button if you're ready for war inside the octagon. And don't forget to subscribe for more fight breakdowns and exclusive insights. Fight night can't come soon enough.